Welcome back, and thank you for joining me on Mr. Jim's Adventures. Last time, Sebastian's first major assignment at the Phoenix Academy drew the attention of some very powerful people. While his classmates saw an impressive science project, others saw something far more significant. Today, old wounds are reopened as the Academy examines the tragedy that destroyed Earth. Sebastian finds himself defending one of the most hated names in human history, while elsewhere, paper uncovers a crime so disturbing that even he finds it intolerable. Meanwhile, Captain Patrick's conspiracy continues to move forward as tensions within the fleet grow ever more dangerous. This is Chapter 10 of The Problem with Aether. Danielson. Well, at least all of you passed Lieutenant Law's little test, so my time before this interruption wasn't wasted. Lieutenant Daniels takes his seat behind the desk. The class had learned that this is their signal. They come out of attention and find their own seats. So I believe we had just finished discussing the Second World Witch War, in which Hitler had declared heretical science as the domain of the Aryan Church. Who remembers why the other Aryan nations didn't join with the Aryan Germany? Cadet Sanders stands at attention by his desk. You may answer, Cadet. Well, sir, it really started with the original heretic scientist, St. Thomas Becket. His life and teaching showed that the ability to utilize the heretical sciences was possible by more people than was previously believed. He showed that there were enough people to actually study it as a science and simultaneously work in public settings to create effects previously thought to be accessible to only a few. Heretical adepts became a key to building and expanding the sciences into a full blown industrial revolution. It was merely a matter of study and application. While he did maintain, as we know today, that certain bloodlines demonstrate a higher aptitude for one science or the other, the fact that enough English and Norwegian people used one or other of the sciences pretty well settled it. These two people were of a more Alpine descent. According to Hitler, they couldn't be allowed to study and work the heretical sciences. They were not about to weaken their industrial machine by eliminating these non Aryan elements of their workforce. Good answer. At ease, cadet. Sanders returns to his seat. Now, why is the industrial machine so important? Zhang Zi springs to attention. Your answer, Cadet Zhang? They could not afford to leave themselves open. As Cadet Sanders said, enough British and Norwegian citizens were more of an Alpine descent. They knew Hitler would never consider their country as fully equal. The Second American Civil War was in full swing, removing their military and massive resources from the global arena. Without the support of the Americans, Europe was in a precarious situation. They needed the industrial machine to prepare for the war they knew was coming. At ease, cadet. Good job, class. So I'll wrap this up before proceeding to the next lesson. The U.S. government and the Sioux Cherokee Empire signed the Civil Unity Accords. Canada asked to become part of the Civil Unity Accords, and when asked, Mexico gladly signed them too. Then the reunited states turned their combined war machine towards assisting their European Cossack brothers. Initially, the racial and religious diversity of the Allied forces hampered their efforts. It was not until they learned to put these differences aside that they managed to prevail. Internal security, the whole fleet, was built around these principles. Religious views are fine and dandy, even perhaps a requirement to be human, but must take a second place to the good of the whole. We are all human, no matter our gender, the shade of our skin, or shape of our noses. Danielson stops pacing and stares at the students. What? Nobody taking notes? I thought Law said you were a smart group. Rubbish. Chairs scrape and backpacks are rummaged as the cadets hasten to get their seats straight, notebooks out, and start writing. Tomorrow, we will really get into the details, but I wanted to introduce our next topic. We will discuss why we are here. Not the psychological rubbish about the meaning of life, but rather the nitty gritty reality of why we're fleeing through space. Sebastian feels the lieutenant's eyes and look up just as he glances away. A child created a device to make his own life easier and ended up destroying our world. This child played with forces he did not understand in order to make his own life easier. In this chapter, we will discuss what went wrong, the lessons humanity learned, and the rules IS follows to make sure it cannot happen again. Sebastian bolts to attention beside his desk. Cadet Snow? Sir, while it is true that the device did create the problem, Not all the blame can be put on him. How so? Well, as you said, he was a child, only 9 years old. Where were the professors who were supposed to chaperone him? Everyone blames the child, but nobody ever thinks to blame those who should have been responsible enough to prevent the disaster. Are you suggesting this isn't his fault? Yes and no. He did build it, that we know, but are we right to blame the child? Even if we do, should not others have been blamed even more? As a culture, we demonize him as the creator of the device, yet we never mention the adults who let him do so. Do you suppose we should throw them in jail and let him wander free? Mocks Danielson. Let's see how far we can push him on this subject. None of them made it to the fleet. They were left to deal with the mess they let happen. And yes, let him walk free. He is now an adult. Who knows what wonders he could create or what destructions he could cause? He built a machine and was the only one who understood it. Now you suggest we let him loose to do it again? Not exactly, sir. We monitor his activities. We give him the resources he needs to fix the problem, but pay attention when he asks questions. They were so used to capitalizing on his ideas that they became complacent. His development of a glyph that isolated and removed cancer cells from the body made them rich. The engine that pulls the fleet is based on his functional model. He approached several people with questions regarding the space-time continuum that they couldn't answer, but they were so used to profiting from his ideas that they didn't question why he was tampering with the very fabric of reality. It is the instructor's fault as much as Sloane's. Super genius or not, he was only 9 years old. He should have been better chaperoned. His voice becomes strained and then slowly raises in volume. The school let him do whatever he wanted because there wasn't a single person on the planet who understood his ideas. But the things he kept coming up with made everyone rich. They should have watched closer when he asked about the blasted time crystals, should have examined the motor he designed. Hell, with the money he made them, he shouldn't have had to mow lawns for spending cash. A little coin in his own pockets would have prevented the whole thing. They grew rich while he and his family received nothing. Sebo's voice cracks and the anger fades. I know. I've talked with my aunt. She did what she could, but nobody in the family was compensated for his inventions because the projects were done on campus, so they were the property of the school. She had to watch her sister's family practically starve to pay for his education, while the school made out like bandits. The last was almost a sob. And now? Danielson asked in a much softer tone. Now he's locked away, where he can do no more harm and no more good. Imagine the wonders a more mature, more cautious mind could come up with. Sebastian is met with horrified stares from his classmates for defending the demon in their midst. As soon as the class is over, Danielson messages Law. I think he'll do it. Paper. Paper idles in the passageway in front of the green fair. He had already made his purchase of exotic spices, a leaf of rhubarb, peach and cherry pits, and other ingredients to cook up something special. No, nothing left to buy here, and the package is being wrapped. It is but a convenient place to bump into all sorts of people. The shop across the way, for example, rents games and sports equipment tailored to a younger audience. Titus, the owner, also sells clothing knickknacks and other items his teenage clients like. Paper happens to know what else he keeps in the back room. Here he comes, Marco says to no one in particular. A young Hispanic man with a sliver of a mustache enters the passage from the far end and makes his way towards Titus's shop. Unlike many of the kids who act secretly as they approach Hyperreal Emporium, Rico Chavez saunters up like he owns the place. Paper follows just a step behind. Hey, Rico. The boy turns to see who addressed him. Hey, friend. He's about to call him freak, like his dad does, but something about the eyes warned him it wouldn't be a good idea. At least not without his father around. How's it shaking? Not bad, not bad at all. Paper takes a step aside to give the kid some room. It's not time to make him sweat yet. I hear your old man is looking for a ship you can captain someday. He wouldn't do that. I've got to earn my stripes. No crew worth its salt would let itself be saddled by a wet behind the ears rookie. Rico thumps through a shelf of games, then picks up a first person shooter based on the last great Earth war, Stalag Witch. True, but you gotta admit, you have it good. Not many kids your age have the funds to spend in this place. Your dad does look after you. When you do prove yourself, he'll see to it that you get a ship when others will work their whole life for somebody else. even if they are more qualified. Rico turns with a glare, slamming the game onto the table. Calm down, boy. I didn't mean anything by that. With your father as a role model, you already know more about being a captain and what it takes to lead men than most of his officers on his ship. I'm just saying the system works better for some than others. Why should we turn down what we're offered? We can use the hand we're dealt with to live life to the fullest and afford the best. Paper motions towards the back room with a grin. Care to help me pick out the very best? The back room is actually an old cargo bay. The door is a solid steel hatch. Sometime in the past, Titus had tinkered with the seal so it could be activated from the inside, creating a safe bolt hole in which he could hide several illicit products. Together, Paper and Rico head to the door. Titus, seeing two heavy buyers heading toward the back, swiftly puts his second in command in charge of the front and joins them. The back room has rows of shelves, each with powder, liquids, and canned gases arranged by content and sizes. Just about any substance from Earth that could be abused is represented here. Behind the shelves, Titus has a curtained off section. He has obviously added something that Paper was unaware of. He makes a show of examining the shelves as he maneuvers to get a glimpse behind the curtain. Welcome to my little piece of heaven. Anything you can think of, I will provide for a price. The curtain is pulled too tight to get a peek behind. Paper takes the direct approach. What's that over there? Paper points past the shelves of drugs. That wasn't there last time I was in. Just something one of the older boys asked for. It's proving to be one of my most profitable and popular items. I'm sure you wouldn't be interested in it, but Rico here might be. He slaps the boy on the shoulder. She's about his age, and I hear he recently broke up with his girl. Just then, a boy steps through the curtain, adjusting his clothes. Before the curtain drops back in place, they see a red-headed girl tied and gagged. Rico steps back from the curtain. Is she really here for... She's not here for her health. If you like them feisty, I can loosen her bonds a bit. What are you charging for that? Rico stares at the curtain as if trying to see through it. It ain't cheap. Even you had better check your bank balance. She wasn't easy to catch, and I had to pay out the nose to get her here without witnesses. You're both scum. Neither of the others had noticed Paper drawing a blade. The first they knew of him being armed was the blade cutting across Titus's throat. He is careful to have the blood splatter cover Rico. Then he puts Rico in an arm lock and carefully injects a lethal dose of Titus's best. Raising his voice, Paper yells to the back, help is on the way. Turning back to Rico, he adds, as for you, by the time they arrive, you'll be too far gone to save. Perhaps now your father won't be too happy with the life in the fleet. It's a dangerous place he'll be more willing to leave behind. He wipes his prints from the blade and puts it in Rico's hand. That didn't go as planned. Some of the items Titus sold for pleasure are very useful tools in abstracting information and causing accidents. Killing him will cause a few delays, but the fool deserved it, and eventually somebody will fill the void and open their own shop. Quietly, Paper steps behind the curtain. He pulls the filthy blanket over her naked, beaten body. I wish I could untie you, but the authorities have got to find you like this. He reaches into his vest's inner pocket and takes out a small package. Carefully, he measures a dose of blue powder. Using one of Titus's bottles, he dissolves it and rubs it on the girl's temple. Don't worry, this will help you rest and forget. Picking up Rico's communicator, he makes a call in a very believable impersonation of the boy's voice. Locking the door behind him, he leaves. Ignoring the other patrons and Titus's assistant, he exits the emporium and enters the green fair. He picks up the package the shopkeeper was holding for him and pretends to look at the other goods for sale as he watches the porthole into the passage. It doesn't take long. An internal security officer and two Marines storm the Hyper-Realm Emporium. They are carrying enough weapons to capture an entire passenger ship. Huddled with the shopkeeper in the green, Paper pretends to be as afraid as the rest of the green's patrons. The unmistakable whine of a blaster signals the Emporium's patrons have been handled. From the pitch, Paper can tell they were on a low setting which would only stun the targets. A second angrier hum sends a Marine tumbling out the door. Predictably, the shopkeeper's assistant reacts violently. A few more angry hums emanate from the shop as the remaining Marine answers in kind. Well, the assistant would never be able to tell anyone that an albino had gone into the back with Titus and Rico. Once the gunfire stops, the front guard should send out an all-clear signal to the rest of the team. Sure enough, the far hatch opens and a med team comes rushing in. Right in front of them is the investigative team. These guys want to go look around before anything or anybody gets moved. The arrival of these teams is a signal to the people hiding in the shops that the danger has passed. Paper flows out into the passage with the shop patrons and slowly, so as not to draw attention, meanders from one group of gawkers to the other until he and his packages are away. Padrick. Joaquin, I'm so sorry for your loss. It is such a terrible tragedy. Padrick is leaning in close so only Captain Chavez can hear her and places a comforting hand on his shoulder. Chavez flinches from the contact and shrugs her hand away. She straightens up and speaks in normal tones. I hate to pry, but you're going to anyway. A smile almost reaches his lips. Padrick shrugs. Yes, I am. Just so concerned. What with the younger boys looking up to Rico so much. What was he doing there? He said it was the best place in the fleet to rent games. The shopkeeper kept good care of his products and performed a hermetic ritual weekly to repair any damage from wear and tear. So he didn't know of the other items for sale? Of course not. My Rico was a good kid and would have made a fine officer. Chavez, I don't doubt that. It's just that he was a smart kid. I find it hard to believe he didn't know anything, and the rumor I heard is that IS didn't kill him. He died of an overdose while covered in the lifeblood of the shopkeeper. He even was clutching the murder weapon. Even if he knew about the drugs, so what? It's common knowledge that many youths use recreationally. It is a crime that gets him a slap on the wrist. My Rico wouldn't have used it. He knows I regularly test my crew, and he knows what the harder drugs do to you. A spacer not in tip-top condition will get himself killed and likely take others with him. I tell you, like I did the investigators, there's foul play going on. Even a regular user would know not to take that much. I'm thinking he threatened to expose that Titus fellow when he discovered the poor girl. Titus struck a needle in him to silence him. Rico grabbed the weapon and slashed out in self-defense. That's the only way it could happen. All the more reason to get away from this filthy fleet as fast as possible. Is there anything I can do? No, Captain. There's nothing you can do. His tone is gruff, almost angry. Let's get your blasted engine built so we can get out of this floating prison. I understand. We'll get to work immediately, though it is your crew that is going to have to do the bulk of the job. We could snatch up all the larger pieces, but the others must be manufactured, and you're the only captain in our little conspiracy with the tools to do that work. Yes, Captain. He looks her in the eye, and for the first time she notices how bloodshot they are. Has he been crying, or not getting enough sleep? Probably both. Since we do not want any unauthorized eyes peeking in unexpectedly, my crew and I will arrange an incident during the next course correction, so that we will fall far to the rear. Then we can start manufacturing the parts in earnest. Good idea. I think we'll have Captain Forrestal do the same. With him right in front of you, he can stall anyone headed your way. Chavez checks the clipboard he carries. That's in 3 days when the astrophysic portents are right. As the fleet begins its maneuvers, we'll start your plan. Paper waits until Captain Chavez shuts the door to come around the crates behind which he had been hiding. 'Tis a shame something so horrible would happen to such a good family. Yes, it is a tragedy, though one that is quite beneficial to us. She tries to peer into Paper's eyes, but he avoids her. Just when it becomes clear that one of us is having second thoughts about our little conspiracy, a disaster occurs to change his mind and make him despise our enemies once more. Paper raises her hands in the classic posture of surrender. Don't look at me like that. I had nothing to do with it. I was playing poker on the Sun Tzu all day yesterday. It's what I do on my rare day off. There are at least 7 people who saw me there. Yes, but for how long? She doesn't voice that question. Okay, okay. I wasn't blaming you. She's starting to feel that there's a dangerous edge to this man that even she isn't safe from. I do have a task that your sneakiness will be best suited for. She forces a smile for Paper. I have some concerns about the security in compartment D. Please take a look at the footage from the surrounding passages. I have looked through them. There's something that doesn't feel right, but I can't put my finger on it. Hopefully, a second pair of eyes will help. Oh, and have security sweep D again. Aye, Captain. Thank you for joining me for Chapter 10 of The Problem with Aether. Next time, the Academy begins teaching lessons that are not meant for public ears. Sebastian receives his first duty assignment. Paper continues his investigation into one of the fleet's most closely guarded secrets, and several people discover that knowledge can be far more dangerous than any weapon. Until next time, this is Mr. Jim. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on our next adventure.